From a quiet town hiding government secrets to the final confrontation with Vecna that's been building since 1983. In this video, we're breaking down everything that happened in the ending of Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1. From Hopper's shocking discovery in the military base, to Will Byers finally using powers we've suspected he had for years. We're covering the return of 8, the complete collapse of military operations, Vecna's first physical appearance this season, and the revelation that changed Will's role in this story forever. Let's get into it. Inside the military-controlled Hawkins base, Hopper and Eleven discovered that Kali, test subject 8 from Hawkins' lab, had been secretly imprisoned by government forces. During their infiltration of the military installation at Hawkins, Jim, Hopper, and Eleven located a sealed chamber within the facility. Dr. K, the military official overseeing operations at the base, had been blocking access to this specific section. When Dr. K was rendered unconscious during the chaos, Eleven gained access to the restricted area. Inside the sealed chamber, they found Kali, also known as 8, one of the other numbered children from Dr. Brenner's original experiments at Hawkins National Laboratory. Kali possesses the ability to create realistic mental illusions, making people see things that aren't actually there. She was last seen in Season 2, Episode 7, titled The Lost Sister, when Eleven briefly joined her group in Chicago before returning to Hawkins to close the gate. Kali had been living with a group of outcasts, using her illusion powers to commit acts of revenge against former Hawkins lab personnel who had hurt her and the other test subjects. The military had apparently tracked down and captured Kali at some point after we last saw her in Season 2, though the show doesn't yet explain when or how she was captured. Finding Kali locked in Dr. K's vault makes it feel like the government never truly stopped treating Brenner's test subjects as assets. Hopper and Eleven finding Kali in a sealed cell proves at least one of the other numbered children was captured instead of being left alone. It suggests the government saw them as ongoing assets rather than survivors, and Mac Z may have been used as more than just an upside-down containment site. While Eleven fought monsters and tried to build something resembling a normal life with Hopper and later the Byers family, the government was tracking down the other children with abilities. Kali spent years on the run with her group, staying mobile, using her illusion powers to hide and to punish the people who had tortured her as a child in Hawkins' lab. She thought she was free. She thought she had escaped the nightmare of being a numbered test subject. She was wrong. The military found her, captured her, and locked her in a sealed chamber. Dr. K knew about this the entire time, which explains why the military presence in Hawkins wasn't just about containing the upside-down breach or managing the civilian population. If Kali was tracked down and imprisoned here, it raises the possibility that other gifted kids were also hunted, even if the show hasn't confirmed that yet. Hopper discovering Kali confirms that the government's interest in Hawkins Lab's test subjects never ended with Brenner's apparent death in 1983, or his actual fate, whatever that turned out to be. Don't forget to subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss out on any of our Season 5 breakdowns. But the military had bigger problems than keeping one psychic prisoner locked up, because the base was about to become a slaughterhouse. The military base designated Mac Z was completely overrun by demogorgons, resulting in catastrophic casualties among military personnel and total operational collapse. The military installation known as Mac Z, situated at or near Hawkins, came under direct assault from multiple demogorgons originating from the Upside Down. The creatures attacked the base with coordinated aggression, targeting military personnel throughout the facility. The demogorgon assault killed most of the soldiers stationed at Mac Z, overwhelming their defensive capabilities, despite whatever weapons, training, and tactical protocols they had implemented. The attack created widespread chaos and panic as the creatures tore through the installation's security measures. The breach represented a massive failure of the military's containment strategy at this location. The timing of the attack coincided with other critical events, including Eleven's discovery of Kali, developments involving Vecna's physical appearance, and Will's eventual psychic intervention. The military spent years preparing for upside-down threats. They studied the gate that opened in 1983. They investigated the Mind Flayer's attempted invasion in 1984. They analyzed the destruction at Starcourt Mall in 1985. They had advanced weapons, trained soldiers, tactical protocols, containment measures, and institutional knowledge about what they were facing. None of it mattered at Mac Z. The demogorgons ripped through the base like tissue paper. These weren't the slow, isolated creatures from Season 1 when the demogorgon hunted alone in Hawkins. This was a coordinated assault. Multiple demogorgons attacking simultaneously with clear purpose and direction. The casualty count among military personnel was devastating. Most of the soldiers stationed there died during the attack. The attack on Mach Z shows how badly conventional tactics can fail against upside-down creatures. Even with preparation and heavy weapons, the soldiers are overwhelmed. It strongly suggests that standard military strategy is not enough on its own, at least against large, coordinated attacks like this. The timing of the assault lines up with everything else happening, which makes it feel less like random hunting and more like a coordinated move. Given Vecna's control over the upside-down hive mind, it seems likely the Demogorgons were acting under his influence, rather than just following pure instinct. Speaking of Vecna, he finally decided to stop hiding in the shadows and make his physical entrance this season. Vecna physically manifested in Hawkins for the first time in Season 5, directly confronting Will Byers and taunting him about being the first victim and the easiest to break. Henry Creel, transformed into the creature known as Vecna after Eleven banished him to the Upside Down in 1979, appeared in physical form during Season 5, Volume 1 for the first time this season. Prior to this, Vecna had been operating from the Upside Down, using proxies like the Mind Flayer and Demogorgons to affect events in Hawkins. But in Volume 1, Vecna crossed over physically and sought out Will Byers specifically, engaging him in direct dialogue. During their confrontation, Vecna referenced Will's status as the First, acknowledging that Will was the first person taken to the Upside Down back on November 6, 1983, when the Demogorgon abducted him and held him there for nearly a week. Vecna specifically taunted Will by calling him the easiest to break, suggesting that Will's time in the Upside Down and his subsequent possession by the Mind Flayer in October 1984 had been part of Vecna's long-term manipulation rather than random circumstances. Despite having Will at his mercy during this confrontation, despite being physically present and capable of killing him, Vecna chose not to harm Will. Instead, after delivering his taunts and psychological attacks, after making sure Will understood that his suffering had been intentional and targeted, Vecna departed, returning to the Upside Down. This encounter marked a significant escalation in Vecna's direct involvement with events in Hawkins, moving from behind-the-scenes manipulation to physical presence and personal confrontation. Will has been Vecna's victim since the very beginning of this entire story. When the Demogorgon took Will to the Upside Down in 1983, when Joyce and Hopper searched frantically for him, when everyone in Hawkins thought he was dead, everyone assumed it was random, a kid in the wrong place at the wrong time, a child who happened to be riding his bike home alone on the same night a monster was hunting. But Vecna's words confirm it wasn't random at all. Will was targeted, chosen, selected specifically by Vecna for reasons we're only now beginning to understand. Vecna called him the First and the easiest to break, which means everything Will suffered, being trapped in the Upside Down for a week with minimal food and water, being found in that library covered in vines and barely alive, being possessed by the Mind Flayer in 1984 to the point where they had to burn the creature out of him. The ongoing connection that let him sense Vecna's presence when nobody else could, all of it was intentional. Vecna has been breaking Will down psychologically for years, trauma layered on trauma, and now he's rubbing it in Will's face, making sure Will knows that every terrible thing that happened to him was planned. The fact that Vecna left Will alive is incredibly significant. He could have killed him easily. He had the opportunity. He chose not to. That means Will still serves a purpose in Vecna's plan. Maybe as a psychological weapon against Eleven and the others, a reminder of their failures. Maybe as a living connection to the Upside Down that Vecna can exploit. Either way, Vecna keeping Will alive means whatever he has planned isn't finished yet. And Will is still a central piece of it. And while Vecna was terrorizing Will on the surface, the rest of the group discovered something horrifying in the Upside Down itself. Steve Harrington, Dustin Henderson, Nancy Wheeler, and Jonathan Byers discovered a massive organic barrier in the Upside Down that appears to form a circular structure around Hawkins' core. While navigating the Upside Down dimension, Steve, Dustin, Nancy, and Jonathan encountered a giant structure described as flesh-like or organic in composition. The group physically crashed into this barrier, indicating they discovered it through direct contact rather than visual observation from a distance, suggesting the structure may have been difficult to see or distinguish from the surrounding environment of the Upside Down. In the Upside Down, the group slams into a huge organic barrier that, based on what they see and later put together, appears to form a circular structure around Hawkins' core. Dustin works out that it forms a massive circle around Upside Down Hawkins, with the old lab at the center. The barrier's organic, flesh-like nature suggests it's a living construction rather than a natural formation, consistent with other Upside-Down phenomena like the Mind Flayer's physical form in Season 3, which was constructed from melted humans and rats, and the organic tendrils and vines that spread through Hawkins during previous seasons. The discovery indicates Vecna has been constructing infrastructure within the Upside Down, specifically designed to contain or control Hawkins. Vecna has built what looks like a living wall in the Upside Down that circles Hawkins. It feels less like a random growth and more like a deliberate perimeter, hinting that he is trying to cage the town in on a massive scale. If that circle really tracks the town's footprint, then anyone inside Hawkins could already be surrounded without realizing it. Steve, Dustin, Nancy, and Jonathan literally crashed into it, which means it's solid, physical, real. You can't walk through it. The barrier looks and feels alive, more like a wall of flesh than a fog bank. The group has no idea what would happen if they tried to push through it, but nothing about its appearance suggests that would be safe. It feels less like he's just bringing the Upside Down into Hawkins, and more like he's reshaping the Upside Down itself around Hawkins, almost as if he wants to fold the town into his world. The barrier's organic nature connects to everything else we've seen from the Upside Down throughout the series. The vines that trapped Will in Season 1, the tendrils that possessed Will in Season 2, the Mind Flayer's physical body in Season 3, the vines Vecna uses in his lair in Season 4. It's all part of the same system, part of Vecna's body or under his direct control. But the most heartbreaking revelation was waiting inside Vecna's mind, where two people have been trapped in psychological torture. Max Mayfield and Holly Wheeler both exist as conscious entities trapped inside Vecna's mind dimension, where Max has been spiritually imprisoned since her clinical death at the end of Season 4. Following the events at the end of Stranger Things Season 4, where Vecna's curse killed Max Mayfield before Eleven psychically revived her body, Max's consciousness remains separated from her physical form. At the end of Season 4, Episode 9, Max was left in a coma, her body alive but her mind absent. Season 5, Volume 1 confirmed that Max's spirit or consciousness has been trapped inside Vecna's mental dimension. Season 5 shows Max alive in a mindscape called Camazotz, interacting with Holly and clearly self-aware in the present day, while her body remains comatose in Hawkins. Holly Wheeler, the younger sister of Mike and Nancy Wheeler, the youngest member of the Wheeler family, who has largely remained in the background throughout the series, was also discovered to be present in this same mental space. Inside Vecna's mind dimension, Max and Holly were able to communicate with each other, indicating they both retained their personalities, memories, and awareness despite being imprisoned in a supernatural entity's consciousness. During their interaction, Max revealed the truth to Holly about the entity called Mr. Whatsit, a character that had apparently been appearing to Holly, explaining that Mr. Whatsit was actually Vecna in disguise, attempting to manipulate her. After learning this information, Holly made the strategic decision to continue pretending she remained fooled by Vecna's disguise to avoid alerting Vecna to the fact that she now knew his true identity. This deception suggests Holly retained enough awareness, intelligence, and strategic thinking to recognize the danger of letting Vecna know she could see through his manipulation, demonstrating remarkable presence of mind for someone so young. Season 5 makes it feel like Max has been stuck there for the whole time she's been in a coma, fully conscious inside Vecna's mind while her body lies in the hospital. Her body is alive in Hawkins, kept breathing by machines, monitored by doctors, visited by Lucas and her friends. But her consciousness, her personality, her memories, everything that makes Max herself has been imprisoned inside Vecna's mental dimension, trapped in the mind of the monster who killed her, who broke her limbs, who shattered her bones, who stopped her heart. And now Holly Wheeler is there too, a young child, probably no older than 5 or 6 years old, stuck in a supernatural predator's mind. The Mr. Whatsit revelation is particularly sinister. Vecna has been appearing to Holly in disguise, pretending to be something friendly or harmless, manipulating her, probably trying to use her against her family or extract information about Mike, Nancy, and the others. But Max warned her, and Holly is smart enough and brave enough to keep pretending she doesn't know. That's a child having to deceive an ancient evil entity to survive. The psychological strength that requires is extraordinary. Max and Holly prove Vecna does not simply kill and move on. He can trap consciousness inside his own mind. If that applies to other victims like Chrissy, Fred, and Patrick, then they might not be gone in the normal sense at all. They could be part of the same nightmare landscape, still aware and suffering, even though the show hasn't shown us their minds directly. If you're thinking this is the worst possible situation for everyone in Hawkins, drop a comment and tell me who you think is in the most danger right now, because things are about to get even worse. The military's systematic operation to round up Hawkins' children failed catastrophically when Demogorgons intercepted the captives and dragged them through gates into the Upside Down toward Vecna's domain. Military forces operating in Hawkins had implemented a plan to systematically gather and contain the town's children, likely as part of their broader containment and control strategy following the Upside Down breach that occurred at the end of Season 4. The military organized a large-scale operation to gather Hawkins' children into controlled locations, publicly framed as a protective evacuation. Max Z gathered kids aged 9 to 10 in one place. However, the military's child roundup operation failed to achieve its objectives when Demogorgons attacked during the operation. The creatures specifically targeted the children who had been gathered by military personnel, demonstrating either intelligence or direction from Vecna. Rather than simply killing the children on sight, which would be consistent with typical Demogorgon predatory behavior, the creatures physically took them, dragging or carrying them away from military custody. Demogorgons attack and snatch the children and retreat into the Upside Down. The military proved unable to prevent this mass abduction, despite their weapons, training, and numerical advantage. The military was rounding up Hawkins' children. Whatever their deeper motives were, concentrating so many kids in a few places made them ideal targets. When Demogorgons attacked, they took advantage of that, dragging those children through gates into the Upside Down. The creatures didn't just kill randomly like animals hunting for food. They specifically took the children the military had gathered, grabbed them, dragged them away. Given what we see with Holly and the flesh wall, it feels like those kids are being delivered straight into Vecna's territory, rather than just vanishing into some random corner of the Upside Down. That's not predator behavior. That's not opportunistic hunting. That's a strategic abduction. Given Vecna's obsession with children and the way he uses minds as tools, it feels less like a random tragedy and more like a situation he was waiting to exploit. The question is, why Vecna wants Hawkins' children specifically? Based on what we know about Holly and Max being in his mind dimension, and his history as Henry Creel who killed children, and his time as one at Hawkins' lab where he was surrounded by Brenner's child test subjects, Vecna has a specific interest in young people. Maybe he's building an army of trapped consciousness, collecting children's minds inside his own. Maybe he's trying to replicate what Brenner did, transforming children into weapons with psychic abilities. The military's plan to protect Hawkins' kids by rounding them up backfired spectacularly. And that brings us to the moment that changed everything we thought we knew about Will Byers and his role in this story. In the final moments of Volume 1, Will Byers used psychic abilities channeled through his connection to Vecna to freeze and kill the attacking Demogorgons, suffering the same physical strain Eleven experiences when using her powers. As Demogorgon attacks reached crisis levels at Max Z and threatened the gathered children, Will Byers took direct action using abilities he had not previously demonstrated on screen. Will accessed psychic power by channeling through his existing connection to Vecna, the link established when Will was first taken to the Upside Down on November 6, 1983, and reinforced when the Mind Flayer possessed him throughout October and November 1984. The possession left permanent traces, a connection Will has felt throughout the series, allowing him to sense when Vecna or the Mind Flayer were near, giving him visions of the Upside Down, making the back of his neck tingle with cold when danger approached. Using this Vecna connection as a conduit, Will reached through his connection to Vecna and froze the charging creatures. Every Demogorgon in that battle stopped moving at the same moment and then died, their bodies collapsing. Immediately after executing this psychic attack, Will's nose began bleeding, mirroring the physical strain and nosebleeds Eleven experiences when pushing her telekinetic abilities to their limits, particularly during intense moments like closing the gate in Season 2, fighting the Mind Flayer in Season 3, or battling Vecna in Season 4. Season 5, Volume 1 concluded with the camera focused on Will's face as blood ran from his nose, cutting to black on this image and confirming that Will Byers now possesses and can actively use Vecna-linked psychic abilities. Will Byers has powers. The show has been hinting at this since Season 1, when he survived a week in the Upside Down as a 12-year-old with no food, no proper shelter, no weapons, no abilities anyone knew about. Since Season 2, when he could feel the Mind Flayer's presence when nobody else could, when his connection to the hive mind let him spy on the creatures and provide intelligence. Since Season 3, when he could still sense the Mind Flayer even after it was supposedly purged from his body. Since Season 4, when he could feel Vecna planning attacks. And now, it's confirmed beyond doubt. In a single moment, Will does something we have only ever seen from 11. He uses psychic force to stop and kill multiple Demogorgons. The difference is that his power seems to run through his link to Vecna, not his own independent abilities. 11 has always struggled to handle even one Demogorgon at full power, and here, Will wipes out an entire pack at once. It is the clearest proof so far that his connection to Vecna is not just passive, he can weaponize it on a large scale, at least in that single, desperate moment. The nosebleed is critically significant. That's the physical manifestation of psychic strain, the biological cost of using telekinetic or psychic abilities. It's the same symptom 11 shows every single time she uses her powers. It confirms Will's abilities work the same way, draw from the same source, cost the same price in physical exhaustion and damage. But Will's power didn't come from Hawkins' lab experiments like 11's. He wasn't injected with drugs as a fetus. He wasn't raised in sensory deprivation tanks. He wasn't trained by Brenner. His abilities came from Vecna, from being Vecna's first victim, from being the easiest to break. Vecna broke Will starting in 1983, and in breaking him, in traumatizing him, in possessing him, gave him power. Whether that puts him on 11's level or turns him into something very different is one of the biggest questions left for Volume 2. The final cut to black on Will's bleeding face is the show telling us everything changes now. Will isn't the victim anymore. He's not the one who needs protecting. He's not Mike's sensitive friend who needs to be looked after. He's a weapon. Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1's ending confirmed what fans have suspected for years, while delivering revelations that fundamentally changed the entire foundation of the show. The military's secret imprisonment of 8 proved the government never stopped hunting Brenner's test subjects, with Callie's capture suggesting they view gifted children as assets rather than people deserving protection. The Demogorgon assault on Max Z demonstrated how catastrophically conventional military tactics can fail against coordinated upside-down threats. Vecna's physical confrontation with Will revealed that Will's suffering since 1983 was intentional targeting, not random tragedy, with Vecna specifically choosing him as the first and the easiest to break. The discovery of the massive organic barrier in the Upside Down showed Vecna is building something that looks like it could cage Hawkins on a scale we've never seen before. Max and Holly's imprisonment in Vecna's mind dimension shows he can trap consciousness instead of simply killing victims, and it raises the terrifying possibility that others he's taken might still be aware inside him. The military's child roundup operation created concentrated targets that Demogorgons exploited, delivering victims into the Upside Down toward Vecna's domain. And Will's psychic destruction of the Demogorgons attacking Max Z confirmed he possesses Vecna-linked abilities powerful enough to kill multiple creatures simultaneously. Every revelation in Volume 1's ending connects to a single pattern that's been building since 1983. Vecna has been playing a long game, and Will Byers has always been at the center of it. Will was targeted from the beginning. His abduction in 1983 wasn't random. His possession in 1984 wasn't opportunistic. His ongoing connection to the Upside Down wasn't coincidental. Vecna specifically chose him, broke him through trauma and possession, and through that breaking, gave him abilities that can now kill Demogorgons with a thought. The easiest to break became incredibly dangerous. Max's consciousness trapped in Vecna's mind since the end of Season 4 means he's been collecting victims inside himself. And if other victims are there too, he's building something worse than an army of bodies. He's collecting minds. Holly's presence there means he's expanding his collection, targeting the families of everyone who fought him, going after children specifically. The flesh-like barrier in the Upside Down suggests Vecna is restructuring that dimension around Hawkins in ways we don't fully understand yet. Callie's imprisonment means the government has been tracking and capturing Brenner's other test subjects rather than helping them. The ending of Volume 1 strips away any hope that Hawkins could return to normal. There's no containing this. No going back to how things were before November 1983. Vecna has built massive structures in the Upside Down. He's collected children into his domain for unknown purposes. He's imprisoned consciousness inside his mind dimension. He's destroyed the military's capacity to respond at Mach Z. And he's revealed that his first victim can now kill Demogorgons in ways that mirror Eleven's abilities. But power that comes from Vecna's connection carries a price. Will killed those Demogorgons by channeling through his link to the monster. Every time he uses that ability, he draws from Vecna, connects deeper. The nosebleed shows the physical cost, the immediate biological damage. What we don't know yet is the psychological cost. What it does to Will's mind to channel Vecna's power. Whether he can control it or whether it controls him. Whether using it makes him more susceptible to Vecna's influence. The military failed at Mach Z. The roundup created targets Vecna exploited. Conventional warfare failed against the Demogorgons. The only thing that worked in that moment was Will using the connection Vecna created years ago. By the end of Volume 1, it feels like Vecna may have accidentally created the one person who can hurt him the most, or deliberately shaped Will into a living conduit he can still exploit. The show does not spell out which it is yet, but the idea that saving Hawkins with Vecna's power could also be playing into Vecna's design is exactly the kind of moral trap Stranger Things loves to set up. Will saved everyone in the final moments of Volume 1, but the question Volume 2 needs to answer is whether using that power makes Will more vulnerable to the connection that's already consumed so much of his life, and whether Vecna's plan for his first victim is finally complete. If you want to know what happens in Volume 2 the moment it drops, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the conclusion of Stranger Things, and find out if Will can control his new abilities or if the connection to Vecna will consume him completely.